てって何から?
In my long search for shows that tap into and overly fulfill my love for expressive and fluid body animation, unique stylistic choices, barbaric and over-the-top comedy, and a grounded story based entirely on human relationships, I've finally found an anime that hits me right to the core. And it's from the 90s, which is even better. Yeah guys, we have a real gem on our hands today. It's not like some hidden gem or anything, since I'm pretty sure this show has garnered a strong enough fan base over the years, but the anime I'm talking about is known as Kare Kano, aka His and Her Circumstances, directed by the legend himself, Hideaki Anno, at least for the first half of the show. Now, when you put the words romantic comedy in front of one of the biggest madmen in all of animation, you probably wouldn't know how that'd work if you hadn't seen this show before. But trust me, it's just as wild as you may think it is. For those unfamiliar with the series, let me give you a brief rundown of the plot. The story centers around this girl named Miyazawa Yukino. Since she can remember, she's always been the model student at school. She's currently one of the freshman class reps and is seemingly the most popular girl in school. She handles a lot of busy work, is very pretty, very classy, and one of the top ranked students in the entire school. But here's the thing, that's all a farce, a facade, a fugazi. Outside of school, she has no filter, no awareness for classiness, and spends pretty much all of her time plotting on something devious to bolster her image because, well, simply put it, she just loves getting praise and attention. Unfortunately for her, the most popular boy in the school, Arima Soichiro, figures this out on complete accident, and things go spiraling from there. It's a minor spoiler since it actually happens pretty early on and is basically the plot of the rest of the show, but they develop feelings for each other, then become boyfriend and girlfriend relatively quick. And the show primarily focuses on showcasing how their love and connection with each other helps them grow into becoming more genuine, honest, and open people. Because Arima, just like Yukino, is also wearing a mask, but he's doing it for more deep-rooted reasons than Yukino is. So his character arc around his own identity lasts for pretty much the entire season and runs much further into the psychology of the character than Yukino's arc does. It isn't to say that one is more well done than the other, it's just based on, well, as the title suggests, differing circumstances between the two that cause their stories to go very differently. But ultimately, they conclude through the assistance of one another. Okay, I said briefly, but that wasn't brief at all. But you know, that's the whole point of Kare Kano, basically. As much as I explained, it's relatively simple. Throughout the series, you get introduced to a very fun cast of side characters that help boost the two leads while offering for a lot of fun and interesting side stories and character interactions. One of these characters is Asaba, who adds what you would expect to be a love triangle, and well, he kinda does. But the thing is, he's more gay for Arima than he is interested in Yukino. In fact, he has really no interest in Yukino at all. He just treats Arima like his boy toy. I swear to God, I love this guy. He says he loves women, but I know a gay man when I see one, and that, my friends, is one beautifully gay dude. The funniest moments in this show are easily when he's involved. It's nice that he has this kind of relationship with Arima too, because even when it's not super comedic, you get these small moments of Asaba actually looking out for the two of them. Because while he does act incredibly over the top for Arima, he's always doing his best to support the two's relationship, which makes him a great support character to me. Continuing on from the great side characters, one of my favorite arcs in the series centers around a character named Tsubasa and her coming to terms with her father's remarriage through bonding with the son of the woman he's marrying, which helps her cope and jump over her loneliness by finally having someone around that she can bond with without having to fear being replaced. It's really well done and does a lot for a character that really doesn't get to do all that much outside of the arc. There's not too many arcs in the show since it's only 26 episodes and never really got to finish adapting the manga, but there's a lot of great characters and side stories that go along with the main plot as well. Her family is always a treat to see since her sisters are some of the most energetic in the show, and there's like an entire episode dedicated to the story of their parents meeting, and it resembles and contrasts Yukino and Arima's relationship in a lot of different ways that makes it very intriguing and cool to look into, especially for characters that don't really get to appear all that much. much. Yukino gains a friend group about midway through the show, and they're a lot of fun to be around. A lot of them don't even play a big part in the plot, but their interactions elevate the series severely. My favorite one in this group is definitely Aya, since, well, she's by far the one that resembles me the most. Just a silly little gal who's absolutely obsessed with writing and telling stories, even if they're kinda weird. She's my new literally me character, and I will be repping Aya forever now. Every time she was on screen, I was kinda like, yep, I would be best friends with that person, even though she's kind of a control freak and kind of a bad friend and kind of just a bad person. She's actually the most evil character in the entire show, but guess what? She's still my bestie. Honestly, if I were to say my favorite character, it'd be hard to pick, but I'd probably go with Arima, since I find him the most interesting of anyone here. He has a very intriguing character arc that explores something that isn't really present with anyone else here, which is his self-loathing. The series goes surprisingly deep into his mental state and offers an interesting look into toxic masculinity and the cons of wearing a mask for so long. I think it makes him probably the most human character in the show, since it gives him one of the most human traits a character can have, which is a heavy amount of anxiety and self-consciousness repeating all over again. At times, the structure of how they explore it can feel repetitive, but I mean, that's what self-hate and depression is. It's a repetitive cycle that is difficult to take care of, especially since it isn't something you can really fix by relying on others. This is acknowledged near the end of the show in an episode where Arima decides to try and confront his demons without relying on Yukino, which creates much more progress for him. There's a moment in one episode centered around the main couple taking a step into progressing their relationship into deeper territories, and if you can't tell what I mean by that, I'm basically saying that they fuck. At the end of this episode, we see Arima have a nightmare that ends up causing him to have a panic attack in the middle of the night. He's sweating, hyperventilating, and even throws up. And there's a fast-paced, high-pitched tune playing as this all goes down, which makes the scene feel surprisingly disturbing. Like, it isn't come and see or anything, but the direction taken here really emphasizes the intensity going on with Arima's emotional state, and showcases just how serious this is for him, which I really like. Overall, I think his arc is handled very, very well. Much better than I expected it to be. With Anno on board and working with Gainax for the last time, this show is extremely creative. It manages to make what's really a very simple romance story into something much more with how it masters expressive character movement and creative visual storytelling. There's a lot of visual and even audible poetry through the use of the backgrounds, which change from regular hand-drawn backgrounds to your usual pale whites, to hyper-realistic, and to heavily distorted images in order to create a fitting scene. Many liberties are taken here, and I love them. Funny thing is, through my research, I learned that the production for the show was, well, basically hell. And some of the creative choices that make the show so unique were done because of the budgetary and schedule related issues. An example of this is in episode 12, where the girls Maho and Tsubasa need to stay at Yukino's house, and there's a scene of the girls playing Uno with her family. This was actually a fun inclusion that was done entirely for the sake of filling in the runtime, as stated by Anno in an interview here. On the contrary, episode 12 was already more than 2 minutes short in length when the storyboard was completed. So, I added a cut to play Uno to gain some time. The plan was to have the voice actors play the game improvising in the studio during recording, and then use the dialogue to compose the episode. However, the voice actors had so much fun that they kept playing the game forever, and as a result, it became too long. I wrote a new script based on it, and then re-recorded that cut following the week to make ends meet. The only way to create work efficiently is to bear the burden of the work yourself in the end. For episode 12, there were other problems with the schedule that prevented us from working on the backgrounds in time. So in my judgment, I decided to handle all the actual scenery and object shots cuts with photo processed backgrounds. For this too, I made the backgrounds myself with a photocopier and a Tresco machine. This is just one of many issues that happened with the production on this show, and it got so bad that Anno actually had to drop out of the project about halfway into it. You can kind of tell when he left because the direction and feel does change just a bit, but it doesn't ruin the series entirely. Sure, it feels different, but overall it was still the same quality for the most part. I will say the production issues really do show in the final episodes of the show, but besides that, those limits and restrictions placed on the team unintentionally led to far more creative moments that elevated the memorability of this show, such as episode 15, an episode that is made entirely with paper cutouts and paper puppets because they wouldn't have been able to finish the episode otherwise. And guess what? This is one of the best episodes in the entire show, and it's because of this choice that it was the case. There is a lot that went into all of the obstacles the team faced when making making this show, and if I really wanted to, I could go on for at least another 15 minutes about the story behind this entire anime's production, but that is going to be another video for a different day just because it's a very interesting story that I want to do as much research as possible on before talking about it, because it really is a very intriguing and eye-opening story. But you know, when the show actually is animated, it is very animated. The character movements are incredibly expressive, and they use that to the utmost advantage with comedic moments, emphasizing the fast-paced and barbaric nature of the characters to create visuals that exaggerate those traits into something over-the-top and flat-out hilarious. Tsubasa, Yukino, and Asaba are my main examples here, since there's loads of scenes with them like that, and it's what makes Kare Kano as funny and endearing as it is. It's what separates this show from other rom-coms, because its creativity and focus on expressive comedy in the specific genre is not something you see often. In fact, I don't think there is any other show in its genre that you can compare it to. Even in the 25 years after its run, I mean it when I say that Kare Kano might just be a one-in-a-million series that you just can't find anywhere else, which makes it all the more sad that the show didn't get a better production schedule or get to finish adapting the material. It has enough of a conclusion to be somewhat satisfying, but you can't deny that more episodes would have been amazing. Even if it were to get another adaptation today, I don't think the magic of what made the original so special can ever be replicated today with modern animation. It just doesn't work the same anymore. Kare Kano is definitely one of the best anime I've seen, and I would say it's probably my favorite rom-com out there. It's a bit of an oldie, but it's a classic, and it has a whole lot of rewatchability to it. I do want to check out the manga just to see how different they are as well, which is what a good adaptation should always do. I also can't emphasize enough just how amazing the team for this show was. For all the restrictions, budget cuts, staff limitations, and obstacles they faced, they made the most of it by turning those obstacles into something wonderful on screen, making one of the most creatively masterful anime out there. Definitely give it a watch if you love romance, or if you love comedy, or if you just love animation, because it shines in all of these factors at its greatest heights. But that's gonna do it for this video. Once again, watch Kare Kano if you haven't, and if you have, well, then rewatch it and spread the word on it. Let's get more people to watch this because it's a great show. If you have seen it, well, then comment down below your favorite character in Kare Kano. And if you haven't seen it, comment down below your favorite romance anime. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and of course subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let's try and get 10K subscribers by the end of this year. And with all that being said, I'm gonna head out now. You guys have a wonderful day. Bye bye.